Kunal. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. So I've had the privilege of talking to Kunal many, many times, and thank you so much for being here today with us.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate you making the trip, being here with us at FutureLink. Today we're going to focus on really, for digitalizing just POs and ASNs and the value it can bring to an organization like yours, as well as to your customers. So with that, I want to start with, if you could tell the audience a little bit about Nutra-Med Packaging
Sure.
and yourself.
So Nutra-Med is a pharmaceutical contract packager. We specialize in oral solid dosage forms into blisters, bottles, et cetera. We operate 40 packaging lines, servicing majority of our customers are innovators as well as generic companies, commercial scale as well as clinical scale packaging, and we're located in northern New Jersey.
Excellent. And in terms of your customer network and what industries do you service, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we do service mainly the drug industry, or about 75% of the drug industry. We do also service OTCs, dietary supplements, med devices, combination products, and we have approximately 150 to 175 active customers.
Excellent. And in our previous conversations, you stressed the importance of building those close relationships. And Jeff talked about trust and building that trust. And can you share some of your philosophy around how you approach that relationship with your customers?
Yeah, I was smiling throughout everything Jeff was saying because the trust is absolutely critical. A little bit of background, my father started our business in 1999, and that's one of the first things he always instilled in me is building a relationship, building trust with your customers, your vendors, your partners, your employees, with everyone. So for me, that is absolutely paramount, and that trust can be built in a wide variety of different ways. It can be built on your quality, it can be built on your service, it can be built on just consistency and history. But if you don't have that trust, as Jeff said, it's very transactional. And there's, again, a lot of different ways to do it. I'm for one, I'm a huge fan of face-to-face interactions and synchronous communication, meaning phone calls or in-person interaction or even a Zoom call. I'm not a fan of emails and text messages and chats. You lose that personal connection, and that to me really takes away from the trust building or creates a gap or a much longer process for building that trust.
Absolutely. And in this changing climate we find ourselves in today, how do you see packaging relationships with your life sciences customers changing?
Yeah, so as we talk about specifically about the climate, right, and what's going on with tariffs and everything else, there is certainly a increased focus on onshoring and domestic manufacturing, which we fall into that category. So we are going back with our customers and having conversations with the new customers around how can we work together? Because right now, no one is quite ready to pull the trigger. Everyone is sort of in this pause, but everyone is also saying, if and when the change happens or if the tariffs are implemented, we need to react quickly. So what can we do to plan now and trust that Nutra-Med will have capacity for us and be able to accommodate us when we need you? So it's a lot of information sharing, open dialogue. It's, what capacities do we have? What are our capabilities? How fast can you scale up? And, what kind of guarantees are you looking for in the background? But it is an open dialogue. How can you help us on pricing outside of tariffs? What can you do to cut cost of goods? What can you do to increase the speed? What can you do to warehouse more for us domestically? So right now, it really is an information sharing period for us where we're using those trusted relationships. But on the flip side of that, where there isn't trust, you sense that hesitation from both parties. From my own team not wanting to share, is this something that's going to go back to a competitor? Is this something that's going to be used against us? And then from our customers as well, not wanting to share with us too much, right? So for me, again, where there's trust, it's easy to share, right? Because we trust each other, we have a history. Where there's not, I think it's very ineffective.
So just to pivot a little bit, I want to focus more on sort of operationally and interactions with your customers. Where do you find sort of the major challenges from your perspective operationally today?
So there's a number of challenges. One is just the manual processing we do, right? There's so many manual processes, And as our business scales, as our customers' business scales, it becomes difficult to keep up with that in a cost-effective manner, especially when you're in the generics industry. Also, supply chain visibility, right? Especially for us in this world of just-in-time service. So Nutra-Med differentiates itself from others in that we try to turn product in 2 weeks or less. Not try, that is our standard. So that is effectively just in time by the time you get the PO and you get it back out. So that becomes another challenge because you can plan with all the Gantt charts and have every project meeting in the world, but when the truck leaves late on a Friday for a Saturday morning delivery that you're accommodating on overtime and it left 2 hours late and you don't know about it because it was at 10 p.m., it has a huge cascading effect. So that supply chain visibility continues to be a challenge for us. And of course, price, right? Price is always just an ongoing challenge with everybody, and we won't get into that.
So you've started your Mint journey, and we're making progress moving forward with that. But can you discuss the opportunities you see for digitalizing the data flow and orchestration of different processes with your customers?
Yeah, so going back to that first point around manual processes, I'm a big believer in just spending time on higher value tasks and higher order tasks. So as manual, right now we're receiving POs in an email. Thankfully no more fax machines, but we are receiving over an email. Someone is then literally spending their day going through that inbox, copying that PO, placing it in a folder. And then there's another person who goes into that folder, reads that PO, and enters it into the ERP system to say, okay, I'm going to create a sales order. What a huge waste of time, right? That should be automated, and that needs to be digitized. So we have started our journey. We've connected with Mint. We're ready for that. We're trying to find the right partner, maybe Sandoz, to make that happen and to be the other counterparty on that, because that is how we're going to get around this lack of scalability. And it can start with very simple, mundane tasks, like inputting POs, like sending out invoices. I think for us, the next important task, which I think Jeff also mentioned, is inventory. So inventory is a regular request we get almost daily, and we have some customers that hold a tremendous amount of inventory with us, especially in the private label space. And they need to know, for their planning purposes and forecasting, what do we have on hand? Because they're ordering 3 months out or 6 months out or 12 months out. And that takes up, again, a ton of time. Someone on my team is receiving the request over email, then they're going into the ERP to search for that item. They're creating an Excel spreadsheet out of that. They're putting that Excel spreadsheet then into the format that the customer wants to see, and every customer has a different format, so that's 150 plus formats for us. And then emailing it back to the customer, and then waiting for more questions. And then repeating that, likely the next day and the next week, over and over and over. My view is it's not our data, it's also not the customer's data, it's our data, right? When I say our, I mean not Nutra-Med, it's our collective data. It goes back to this idea of trusting and sharing. And when you can do that in a digitized platform, and your customers and your vendors as well have that real-time access, you no longer have to spend time on that, right? You may have some one-off questions, but that frees up a ton of resources and brings more trust to the network as long as people keep executing and are true to whatever's in inventory and keeping that data accurate.
Absolutely. And I know in these opportunities, there's a lot of give and take, right? Back and forth, and ensuring that there's alignment on goals, identifying project phases on how to best roll things out that enables everyone to meet their objectives.
Yeah.
But what are the biggest requests and questions you hear from your customers today?
Yeah. When it comes to really any project, but certainly on the digitization, is who's going to be in charge of it? Who's going to run this project? Who's going to own it? Who's going to actually effectuate it? Who's going to program it, set it up? Who's going to maintain it? And then who's going to pay for it, right? The pay for it has been an easy one. I said, okay, we'll pay for it. We see value in it, and we're willing to pay for it. We know it's going to pay us back in spades. The who's going to own it becomes a challenge for us with our partners. We know on our end who owns it, right? Myself and my CFO saw the value in this a long time ago. But we're really challenged with finding the right stakeholder on the counterparty. Again, whether that's a vendor or whether that's a customer. People see value in it, but especially in larger organizations, there is this lack of information sharing, and nobody wants to take responsibility. I recently had a customer reach out to us. They mandated that all of their vendor partners on board with SAP Ariba. And you should have seen my reaction when I got that email. It was very adverse. It was, I don't need another portal and another website to be checking. This makes no sense for me to get my POs or upload invoices. It just creates more headaches. We should be integrating with Mint. This is, slam dunk. And then very quickly, when I reached out to my Mint team, we already have a connector built. Great, this should be simple. So I reached back out to that program manager and the VP of supply chain and say, how do we do this? Clearly you have a goal of digitizing your supply chain, as do we. Crickets. It was, well, let me get back to you. Let me check here. Let me check there. To me, you're the program manager. You just rolled out this whole initiative. Why don't you know? And I don't mean it to be critical of them, but it is a problem within larger organizations. Who's going to take ownership of this? Who's going to bless this project and say go? So that is a huge, huge challenge that's getting in our way right now, finding the right champion of these projects to really drive it forward.
That's a great point. I think we see it in all the projects that we do, because the champion tends to be different people, different personas in different companies. There's never a consistency.
Yep.
And so it is a challenge to find out who is the right champion within the organization, the right advocate to help you be successful in your digitalization journey.
Yep.
So we see that every day. So when you're going forward, you heard a lot today from Shabir in the opening keynote. And going forward, where do you see additional opportunities to leverage this network that we're building, this network foundation, and how do you think it'll strategically help your company?
So at first, when we were talking about this earlier, I was like, this is great for all of our transactions, our inventory, and our financials. I would love in a year or two to get our EBR system onto this so that we can send batch records out over the network. It becomes a bit of a workflow. It's approved from our end, send it out, get it approved from the customer, it appears on their dashboard, it comes back, and triggers the shipment. Then I sat through Shabir's and realized that already exists. So he took a little bit of the wind, I guess gave me some excitement, but took the wind out of my sails for what we were going to talk about here. But what I wasn't aware of is all the AI that is now being layered upon Mint. And to me, again, going back to one of the points I made earlier about focusing on higher order tasks, what I was expecting or we are doing right now is, okay, well, someone else is doing the mundane task, right, doing the data entry. Let's now spend our time building those spreadsheets and figuring out how to interpret them. Well, with the tools now being built on top of Mint, we won't have to do that, right? The idea is you should be able to ask Mint, because it's this great repository of data, what do I make of this? What should be my next step? I think that's just going to accelerate our ability to be efficient for our customers, give them the best possible pricing, to make the most of this digital relationship. It is not going to be overnight, right? We talk about AI in my business, and you say ChatGPT, and everyone's like, yeah, ChatGPT, that's great. Well, how do you use ChatGPT in your daily work? Oh, well, if I have to give a speech, I type in what I want to talk about, and it spits something out. That is really what the majority of folks, at least in our business, are using it for. We know there's so much more that can be done with it. So on our AI journey, which for me is part of this digitization journey, we brought in 2 really smart summer interns out of college who use ChatGPT for everything, right? So they are going to come into our office this summer. First task is sit in my office, watch me for a week, tell me everything I did wrong, right? Everything, whatever I just spent 60 hours on, I'm sure it can be consolidated into 40 hours. Just tell me how to use it, train me, right? And then train everybody else. So this will be a long journey. I don't know if I'm even trainable, but it's gonna take some time. But that is the idea, right? That is the future, that we can use the tools that are at our disposal in this digitization journey to spend our time on more complex tasks, right? Now, if AI and Mint is telling me what to do with the data and how to interpret it, now I can spend my time on that relationship. I can go back to my customer and saying, this is what we're seeing. Let's put our heads together and solve, right? What else can we do? And let the digital transaction, the digital infrastructure we've built do some of that hard work or that heavy lifting, but now let's do the higher order of thinking around it to make both of our businesses more successful.
That's excellent. So now I'd like to open up for a couple of questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions for Kunal?
your mindset around trusting it
So,
versus your gut?
so I about 6 months ago, I sat in a presentation with one of the OpenAI founders, and we had this conversation around trusting AI. And one of the examples he gave was around cars and artificial intelligence in cars. Right now, if a human being has a car accident, right, we chalk it up to user error, no problem. We give them a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. We don't just say this severity of the accident, right? But generally, it's not take away their license, take away their cars, get rid of cars. When an electric vehicle or a vehicle equipped with autonomous driving has an accident, we're very quick to say the vehicle is wrong, the programming is bad, throw it out, go away. So we have this zero trust philosophy when it comes to AI currently. But when you look at the data on a broader scale, right, on a whole, it's doing better than humans. We have less problems with artificial intelligence, less errors with artificial intelligence than humans. The humans in my office, just like all of yours, make tons of errors as well. And I'm willing to bet that if we put AI head-to-head against our humans, AI is probably doing a better job. That really changed my perspective around it. My perspective has now shifted that we can put some trust in it. That doesn't mean trust implicitly with no boundaries, no checks and balances, but we should trust it. We should understand and appreciate that AI is not perfect, and that's why you do need checks and balances, especially in a regulated industry like pharma, where we're putting patient lives at stake. But we also can't expect it to be perfect on day one. If that's the expectation, we'll never be able to move it forward. And in an industry like pharma, it is going to take a very long time for us to validate it, right? But how do you validate AI? AI is meant to think like a human at some level, right? We don't validate humans, we validate systems and processes. So to answer your question, my view around AI is that it is important, it has a place in our industry, it is not going to be overnight, but until we as an industry change our mentality that it needs to be perfect on day one, we're never going to be able to adopt it. But as we start shifting that thinking and appreciating it is imperfect, we have the appropriate checks and balances, and we can train it to get better over time, to make less and less errors, and probably less errors than our teams are making today, we'll be in a good place.
I like that. So if you think about agentic, models that are now doing tasks that a human does, you have checks and balances for the work that the humans are doing. So it makes sense to have those same checks and balances for the work that agentic models will be doing for you in the future.
That's right.
It's absolutely. And Paul, I think you had a question in the back.
Yeah, I was just curious. There's a lot of solution partners and ecosystem partners in the room, and relative to your digitalization journey, you talked a little about internal engagement, trade partner engagement. Can you talk a little about how solution partners fit into your mindset and how they can help, on the consultative strategy side, on the program management and run phase side?
Yep.
Unfolding.
Well, there's only one solution partner that matters for me, which is TraceLink, right? So,
I have to pay him.
honestly speaking, it's the solution partners who help drive the thinking, right? Who help drive the vision. So it's rare that we have a problem and then I start searching for the solution partner. Usually what happens is I've been at these conferences, we've had people come in or give talks, or we've, just in mingling with our partners in the industry, we'll hear about these different opportunities and what people are doing and what is possible, right? So for me, solution partners educate us on what is possible, and what is possible can be way out here, but when we have a problem, we're like, okay, we're gonna start here and we're gonna get to here eventually. So for me, that's really one of the key values that maybe gets undersold by solution partners. I want you to be a consultative partner. I want you to pitch me the same story perhaps every 6 months to remind me what is possible and how you're evolving. That's exactly how our Mint journey started. I met the team at a pharma conference, AAM. They were talking about Mint. I had no use case for it. So this doesn't make any sense. 3 or 4 months, doesn't make any sense, but I didn't have a use case at that point. 3 months later, a customer came to me and said, why can't we do this in a different way? Why can't we do this more real time? And I knew exactly who to call, right? And in that case, it was TraceLink, but it can be anybody in our supply chain, anyone in our partner network. Sometimes you're just waiting for that right opportunity, right? That right time to call on that partner. once you call on that partner, they do help facilitate all these things, right? To help make introductions, to help share lessons learned on their implementation journey, right? You never want to reinvent the wheel. You never want to make the same mistake twice. We never believe ourselves to be the best, right? We want to learn from the mistakes of others and get better and do better each time. So that's where the solution partner comes in. I haven't implemented Mint before, but our solution partner has for so many other folks. So come tell me what I can do better and how we can do this faster.
Any more questions from the audience? All right, great. So one more question for you, though, Kunal, just to wrap up. So you have proactively leaned into these challenges in your external manufacturing relationships and sort of taken these first steps to digitalization. What advice would you share with your peers and colleagues in the industry?
Yeah, so it's two things. One is what I mentioned earlier, find the right stakeholder, the right champion, and around that, be persistent and be patient. So we've approached 5 or 10 partners at this point, and they're all in varying stages of wanting to implement. Every single one of those partners says, yes, we want to do this, but I have to be persistent to find the right individual or individuals, right? And I have to be patient that not everyone is going to operate at the same speed that I do. For me, I want it done yesterday, right? And I will keep knocking on that door until it's done, and I'll drive my team to make it done, and that's why we have 2-week lead times. Not all of our partners are the same way. Some of them operate on 6-month schedules or 1-year schedules, and if you want to get this is not going to be overnight. I said the same thing last year. It's going to take time, and you need to look for those bite-sized wins, right? Just now in the networking session, I was talking to someone about that looking for those quick wins that can prove the model, that can prove that this digitization journey has value. Because if you try to do everything at once, it's going to be really tough. Something's going to go wrong, and there's going to be a naysayer who says, throw it out. But if you go for those small, easy wins, maybe it's ASNs or invoices or POs, and you can show we just reduced our transactions by, 1,000 transactions a day, and we freed up 10% of this person's time, that's an easy win that you can then use to propel the journey forward at a faster pace.
I love that. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Kunal.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.